It was a cold, desolate winter night, the kind where the air feels heavy and the silence is almost deafening. The Springfield City Morgue was my workplace, a place I had grown accustomed to over the years. But that night, it felt different. The usual clinical sterility of the morgue was replaced by an eerie, almost palpable tension. The only sound was the relentless ticking of the clock on the wall, each second echoing like a heartbeat in the stillness. I, Dr. James Carter, a forensic pathologist with over 2 decades of experience, was alone, examining the body of a young girl who had arrived earlier that morning. The girl's body was unlike anything I had ever seen. She was stiff, dry, and showed no signs of decomposition, as if time itself had frozen around her. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, and she was draped in a black cloak that seemed to swallow the light around her. At first glance, it appeared she had died of natural causes, but something about her condition gnawed at me. There was an unnatural stillness to her, a silence that felt intentional. As I began my examination, I noticed something peculiar: 4 small holes, perfectly symmetrical, 2 in her abdomen and 2 on her upper chest. They were shallow, precise, and didn't resemble any wound I had encountered before. They weren't caused by a knife or any known sharp object. They looked almost ritualistic, like a cryptic message etched into her flesh. My curiosity deepened, and I found myself drawn into the mystery of her death. I was inspecting her arm when it happened. Her arm, stiff and lifeless just moments ago, slowly lifted, as if guided by an unseen force. My breath caught in my throat, and I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Her hand hovered in the air for a moment before falling back onto the table, revealing something I hadn't noticed before: a small injection mark on her inner arm. The shock of what I had just witnessed was overwhelming, but my professional instincts kicked in. I pushed aside my fear and continued the examination, determined to uncover the truth. What I discovered was both tragic and infuriating. The girl had died from a drug overdose, but it wasn't a simple case of accidental death. She had been on her way to undergo liposuction, a routine procedure, but the doctor performing it had miscalculated the dosage of anesthesia. The mistake had been fatal. Fearing accountability, the doctor and the nurses had panicked. Instead of reporting her death, they had hidden her body in Blackwood Forest, a place shrouded in local legends and superstitions. It was only by chance that her body had been discovered and brought to the morgue. As I pieced together the details of her death, I couldn't shake the feeling that her spirit was still present, lingering in the morgue. Late that night, as I was preparing to leave, I heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible, calling my name. The air grew colder, and a sudden chill ran through my body, as if her spirit was trying to communicate with me. I left the morgue that night with a heavy heart, knowing that her story was far from over. The next day, another body arrived at the morgue. This time, it was a young woman who appeared to have committed suicide by jumping from a high building. Dr. Emily Clark, a colleague and close friend of mine, was assigned to the case. Emily had known the girl personally, and her death hit her hard. As Emily began her examination, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The official narrative didn't add up. While inspecting the body, Emily noticed that the girl's nails were broken, as if she had been clinging to something before her fall. It was a small detail, but it was enough to raise doubts in Emily's mind. She decided to re-examine the body carefully, determined to find the truth. As she worked, she felt a sudden cold touch on her shoulder. She turned around, but no one was there. Then, she heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible voice whispering, "I didn't kill myself." The words sent a shiver down Emily's spine. She was shaken but refused to let fear stop her. Over the next few days, she conducted a thorough investigation, digging into the girl's life and the circumstances surrounding her death. What she discovered was chilling. The girl hadn't jumped to her death, she had been pushed. The killer was someone close to her, someone who had tried to disguise the crime as a suicide. Emily's determination had uncovered the truth, but it came at a cost. The whispers and cold touches followed her, a constant reminder that the dead were not yet at peace. A few nights later, the morgue received another body, a young boy who was supposed to have died from poisoning. Dr. Michael Brown, another colleague, was in charge of the examination. Michael was a man of science, but he had a deep respect for the dead. He believed that even in death, the truth could be found. As he examined the boy's body, he felt a cold touch on his hand, as if the boy was trying to tell him something. Michael's initial tests showed no trace of poison in the boy's system, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He decided to re-examine the body thoroughly, spending hours poring over every detail. His persistence paid off. He discovered that the boy had indeed died from a rare, undetectable poison. It was a sophisticated method of murder, one that pointed to someone with knowledge of chemistry. Further investigation revealed that the killer was the boy's own cousin, who had orchestrated the crime in a bid to secure a larger share of the family inheritance. The final straw came one fateful night when 4 bodies arrived at the morgue simultaneously. Each of them bore strange symbols on their backs, intricate and otherworldly, as if they were messages from beyond the grave. As soon as the bodies were brought in, the atmosphere in the morgue changed. Eerie sounds filled the air, whispers, groans, and the faint clinking of chains. The doctors and nurses were terrified, their fear compounded when the corpses began to move unnaturally, as if resisting the autopsies. I was there that night, and I tried to make sense of what was happening. But the closer I got to the bodies, the more I heard whispers of strange names, names that sent chills down my spine. It was as if the spirits were warning us to stay away. In the end, we decided not to perform autopsies on the bodies. The symbols, the whispers, the unnatural movements, it was too much. We feared that the symbols carried some kind of curse, one that we were not prepared to confront. After that night, the Springfield City Morgue was never the same. Strange noises echoed through the halls at night, and cold touches on the shoulders became a common occurrence. Even the most ordinary corpses seemed to move unnaturally, as if trying to communicate with us. It became clear that the morgue was haunted by the spirits of those who had been denied justice in life. They were restless, their voices silenced in death but still yearning to be heard. The events that unfolded in the morgue changed all of us. We became more than just forensic pathologists, we became seekers of truth, determined to give voice to the dead. But the cost was high. The whispers, the cold touches, the unnatural movements, they were constant reminders that the line between life and death was thinner than we had ever imagined. And in the darkness of the morgue, the spirits waited, their stories still untold.